Welcome to the Sarah Finkelstein Show. Today's question is about long-term care. Is long-term care strictly a woman's issue? Now we know that we are all living longer than ever before, isn't that right? And long-term care is one of those areas that we need to plan for as part of our overall retirement plan. But what is long-term care? Have you ever thought about it? Do you know anyone that has needed to deal with it? Has a family member needed long-term care? Maybe a sibling or a parent? Well, let's talk about what exactly is long-term care. Long-term care deals with extended health care, typically in our retirement years, when we need a little bit of help and we may not be able to take care of ourselves without having some assistance. So long-term care in the industry is that help that we need with what we call activities of daily living: bathing, dressing, eating, toileting, getting in and out of a chair or a bed. My mom needed help with long-term care. And so I had to move her down from New York to Florida so that, first of all, I could keep an eye on her. And secondly, found her an assisted living community that was affordable for her. And she lived there for 6 years and then 2 years in a nursing home, which is way above what the average long-term care claim is. So what is the average long-term care claim? It used to be the average was 3 years, but recently it was changed. So now it is 3 years for men and 4 years for women. So why is long-term care thought of as a woman's issue? Well, let's delve into this. So if you're a married man and you believe that if you ever needed long-term care, that your wife would take care of you or your daughter would take care of you. So why do you even need to plan for long-term care? But what about the woman? Who is going to take care of the woman? Now, women are typically known for being wonderful caregivers, right? We raise our children, we take care of our elderly parents, and also we end up taking care of our spouses. So is long-term care a woman's issue? I think it is. I think it's also a man's issue, but more on the shoulders of a woman. Now, I know people that have siblings. A dear friend of mine has several siblings, and when her mom needed some help, it fell on her shoulders. It's really interesting to think about it, that it doesn't matter if you have 5 siblings or 10 siblings, it usually falls on the shoulders of one individual. Which reminds me of a saying that a mother could take care of 10 kids, but 10 kids cannot take care of one mother. So what is the average cost if you needed care and you had not planned for it? Well, long-term care takes place in various settings. For example, it could take place in your home. And usually that's where most people want to have their care, is in their own home, in their familiar surroundings. But it also takes place in assisted living communities, and boy, oh boy, there's many of them. It could also take place in a nursing home or adult daycare. So let's take a look at the costs. Now, nobody that I know ever wants to end up in a nursing home, but it does happen. The average, and remember, average, it varies across the country, but the average annual fee for a nursing home, for a private room in a nursing home, is about $108,000 per year. Typically, nursing home is the very last resort. Now, what if you needed to go into assisted living? The average fee for assisted living is $54,000 a year. And I know many places that are way above that. And the average annual fee for needing care at home is roughly $60,000. So if the average long-term care claim for a male is 3 years, we're looking at about 150,000 on average, and maybe more. But for females, as we said, it's more like 4 years. So what if you thought that this was really important for you to plan for, and you did not want to expose your retirement nest egg to pay for your long-term care needs? How much does it cost to have a plan in place, otherwise known as long-term care insurance? And there's different types of long-term care plans. There's traditional insurance, and there's also hybrid types of insurance for long-term care. But when it comes to the traditional, which happens to be the most economical form of long-term care plans, let's take a look. So the younger you are when you get the coverage, of course, the cheaper it is. But for a male, let's say a male age 55, and again, this is just average numbers that we're talking about. The average cost for a male to have a long-term care policy at that age, assuming good health, is $1,700 a year in premiums. Now, that policy would provide about $164,000 of long-term care benefits. So once that male gets it at age 55, fast forward to age 85, assuming he has not used the policy in that time period, now that policy would provide over $380,000 of benefits instead of the initial $164,000 of benefits. Why? Because his policy provided for inflation protection. Now, the inflation protection that you can purchase varies, but in this case, it was 3%, and you can go as high as 5%. So the younger you are when you get long-term care insurance, the more advisable it is that you add on inflation protection, because we do know that those long-term care costs are going to increase over time. So you want to protect yourself inside that policy so that it will keep up with the rising costs of long-term care. Now, for a female of the same age, she would be looking at about an annual premium of about $2,600 a year for the same type of policy. And remember, again, we're talking about averages. And why is that? Why is she going to be paying so much more for her policy? Well, the reason is because we know that women live longer than men. They're more likely to use their policies. So therefore, women will pay more than men for long-term care insurance. However, on the life insurance side, if we're talking about comparing life insurance to long-term care, men typically pay more for life insurance than women do, because women live longer. So if you are part of a married couple, though, the insurance companies give you what is called a marital discount. So a married couple would pay roughly about $3,100 a year for both of them to have coverage. So there is a savings element when a married couple applies for long-term care insurance. Man, a single man will pay roughly 1,700, a single woman roughly 2,500, and a married couple will have a tremendous savings there. So if you don't have a plan in place, how will you pay for long-term care when the time comes? Will you spend down your retirement nest egg to pay for your long-term care needs? And I strongly believe that it is a woman's issue to make sure that you have a plan in place to protect yourself and your family. So, ladies, please work with a professional who is knowledgeable about long term care, who can help you get the most appropriate plan based on your needs. And remember, long term care, I feel, is a family affair. Why? Because when your parents need help, who is the first person they're going to call? When your siblings need help, who are they going to call? They're going to call on the family members. So have these important conversations with your relatives. See what kind of plan they have in place. And if they don't have a plan in place, please help them to get a plan in place. Now, what are the statistics, the probability of needing long-term care? Here it is. For people that are 65 and older, there's a 70% chance that you're going to need long-term care. That means 2 out of 3 people over 65 will need to use long-term care at some point for a certain amount of time. That means that only 1 out of 3 will not need long-term care. But hey, how do you know who is that 1 out of 3 that will never need it? Isn't it better to have a plan in place to deal with that tremendous potential risk than to not have a plan in place and risk depleting your retirement nest egg to pay for this? Thank you for joining the Sarah Finkelstein Show. You can find us on Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and you can even Google the Sarah Finkelstein Show. Till next time.